Is this Fjord 41XL more suited to be a superyacht tender or a luxury day boat? I don't know. It's a cracking day for it today, so let's go find out together.
So, I suspect it'll actually work in both functions. I'll demo that at the end of this video on how I think the best way to get guests on and off this boat might be. But now it's time for a test drive. Let's do this. Magic! How about that? Here we are doing 22 knots, just cruising along. This particular boat has got the Yanmar 370 horsepower through Yanmar stern drive. So the standard boat comes with a couple of Volvo 340s. You can then option it up to the Yanmar 370s, and then there's also some more Volvo options up to 440. Now, there's an even more exciting little piece of news for Fjord. This is the Fjord XL for extra lovely, I'm going to say. And there's now an XP for, I'm assuming, extra performance, something like that, because it's got the Mercury 600 horsepowers. Please, will you let me test drive that boat? I cannot wait. Anyway, we're going straight out into some rolling swells. There's 2-meter southeasterly swells, moderate breeze right now. I'm maintaining 26 knots speed over ground with an RPM of 3,300 on these Yanmar 370 horsepowers. And so far, the motion is what I would expect from a Fjord. Actually, I'm going to say so far it's a little bit better. I've driven a lot of Fjord 40s. We're just going to go straight into these waves at 26 knots. Yeah, that's an improvement. That's an improvement. I'm not going to increase my speed just yet. I've got my fuel flow on starboard side reading 50 litres per hour per motor, and through some big ones, nice and soft. You know, it was only a couple of months ago I was driving a Fjord 40 in Western Australia where you do get a bit of rough ocean, and there's another landing. This is great. Okay, a couple of immediate observations. This windscreen is epic. It really, really is an improvement. I do seriously think this 41XL is now becoming a bit of a crossover, because people who would be interested in cabin boats as opposed to these open med-style day boats can see value in this because of all the protection. That's going to be in the walkthrough. So if you're interested in that, I will leave a link to the walkthrough in the description below and at the end of this video. But we're just going through these waves. I haven't had any water come over the bow. Everyone's dry. We're rolling up and down. I want you to pay attention to my drone shots. As the boat comes closer to the drone, I'm actually not going up and down on the altitude. That's the swell. So if it looks like the drone's going up and down, it's actually not. It's consistent in its speed, or in its altitude, I should say. And that's the height of the waves. We do have considerable swell today, so now I'm taking those waves on the port beam, and I'm still maintaining 25.5 knots, my 50 litre fuel flow per side. Yeah, this is good. This is good. This tells me up and down the ocean transits, no problems, and eating up a rough day on the harbour is perfectly doable too. Now let's run down these swells. I'm going to increase the power a little bit, give the drive a little trim. I've got the Volvo Penta trim system, so they are interceptors on automatic, running down the swell. My directional control feels good. Feels good. I've got to say, with the stern drives, this is a lot more sporty to drive than with IPS. You know, even compared to the 53XL that I drove in Cannes, that's more like driving a truck, because you've got this big, and this is still big, this big boat, and she just gently eases into the turns, whereas this 41 has got much more of a sport boat lean when you go into the turn. So it's just more fun. So let's just increase that speed a little bit more now. I'm 3,650 revs, that's what I was trying to say. And fuel flows at 55 litres. Trim's still on the auto for the interceptors. Drive's coming up a little bit. And and speed, sitting on a steady 30 knots. We'll do wide open throttle when we get around the corner. I just want to keep feeling this hull out. So we're just exiting the rough water now and entering more of a protected part of the harbour. There's less bow raise on this 41. That's the next observation. The 40s, when you would drive them, and I notice this because I'm a short ass, you would accelerate and they would typically knock out your whole line of sight for a little while until you get up to speed and you can see over the bow. I don't really notice the same with this 41. So operationally, that's a bit better. Let's just see how this seat is. You can. That's pretty comfy. The footrest is a little bit, I feel like it needs to be extended out a bit more for my left foot, but if you keep your feet in close, that's still comfortable. I don't think it's going to be a problem for the navigator. Standing is great, and then sitting down, you know what? This is pretty good too. You know, if you had half an hour transit time from ship to shore or something like that, this would be quite enjoyable. I can just see over the dash, and if I trimmed down a little bit, there you go. So I just flatten the drives out. Now I've got perfect visibility. So even little Dan at 5'7" doesn't have a problem with that. And if he did, he could just flip that bolster up and see perfectly fine too. So let's get around the corner here and start to wind this speed up, and then we'll put it into some hard turns, and then we'll try the wide open throttle just when we get around this corner here. Still maintaining 30 knots. Fuel flow's really just gone from 50 to 55 a side. Kind of what I would expect for a stonking great big diesel, so that's all quite reliable. And yeah, the other just massive takeaways, which I'm going to talk about more in the walkthrough, is just the epic amount of protection that I have from the sun. The overhang, this roof is a game changer. And wind vortices, well, what wind vortices? I mean, I'm totally protected in here, no wind starting. Okay, so the wind starts just on the side of this seat here. So everyone's just comfy. You could use this boat on a cold day, no worries. Like, oh, that's just awesome. So good. Okay, let's take around the corner here. Just watching for traffic and slowly increasing my speed. Coming up to 31 knots. These Yanmars sound good. I had a Yanmar on my last boat. It was great. Really nice, level, predictable attitude there. That feels great at 31 knots. I'm going to hook it around the corner here. Going through some ferry chop now. 1, 2, 3. Dry, no water. Not a lick of water over the decks so far. Okay, coming through there at 30 knots. 3,760 revs. I'm going to go find some clear water over here, and I'm going to put the boat into a port turn. I'm going to drop my drives. So when you are driving a stern drive boat, you will have the drives trimmed up a couple of degrees at straight line for straight line performance. But when you go into a hard turn, it's more optimal to lower the drives and then get them into that clean water as you go through a hard turn. I'll do that now, because if you just hook it into a hard turn with the trim up, you have more of a tendency to encourage some cavitation. Get out of the way, seagulls. We're filming YouTube, can't you see? Okay. Drives down, 3,600 revs, half turn, really fun angle right now. And I gotta say, no dangerous loss of visibility looking to port as the roof drips down. So that's been well designed. I'm just gonna tighten that turn now. I'm doing that at 30 knots, and I'm gonna increase the power. This is fun. This is great. Okay, that's the maximum heel angle. The boat is predictable. That's great. That's awesome. Okay, let's straighten up, and we'll give you some wide open throttle. Let's see what the top speed with these 370 horsepowers will be. I've got a few waves of my own making that I've just got to get through. Once we're through those, I'll accelerate to wide open throttle, clear all around, one ferry to starboard, he'll be out of my way. Okay, a couple of kayakers, they're wide, all clear and safe, accelerating. Okay, wide open. I want to turn the trim to auto. No, that's okay. It's deactivated. It's raised, I mean. And trimming up, 32, 33. Another trim up. Fuel flows at 70 litres. The revs are at 3,800. Let's get to 3.9. I think that's about it. 3,850 and 33 knots. 33 knots seems to be my wide open throttle speed. And then if we just wind that back to a sensible cruising speed, now it's pretty fast for a big luxury boat. This is CE certified for 14 people. That means in Sydney and New South Wales Maritime, you'll get even more than that on inshore waters. And 26 to 27 knots. Let me just feel it. Okay, so a slow cruise on this boat feels like 25 at 45 litres consumption, and a fast cruise, I'm just going to do that in a gradual turn, feels like about 27. I'm in a turn, so it's not completely accurate, but we're getting 53 litres approximately. I'm filming that today, so hopefully you can see that on the screen as well. Very interesting. Okay, let's go find a dock, put this boat through some slow speed maneuvering, and I'm going to demonstrate how you might get some guests on and off both in a marina scenario and what we could imagine as a super yacht or big boat mothership scenario, which I really do believe some of you are going to think are suitable for this boat. Okay, okie dokie, we've come into the shallow water. We're just near Rose Bay Marina, where I reckon a lot of you guys are probably going to come as well. A couple of things for close quarters manoeuvrability which are worth pointing out. We have a rudder angle indicator on the display just here. So if you're doing traditional operation, like right now, I'm just doing transverse thrust, wheel centered transverse thrust. Let's give it a little test. And we'll go around in a circle. I always like to do that nice, slow and controlled. And when I say that, what I mean is operate with one hand. Don't operate like this, because you'll have a tendency to over rev the thing. So yeah, nice and predictable, super easy. I've got the bow thruster on. Let's just give it a little tickle. Okay, good size bow thruster. That's going to give you some advantages in a close quarters maneuvering situation. So what I mean by that is if you're doing a traditional park without the joystick, you just need to slide the thing across, or if you lose your bow, you can do a little tickle up like so, and you're going to get yourself out of trouble. So next thing I want to do is actually just reverse the boat into the dock. I'll just let this tender go to one side of me so he doesn't think I'm reversing up on him. And I'm just going to simulate picking up guests. So I imagine a boat like this is going to be really useful for picking people up off the dock and also off the mothership, but we have big high sides. So coming up alongside, unlike a rib, which is low sided and you've got lots of protection and maybe a bit easier, particularly for older people or short asses like me to get across the side, we have high sides on a boat like this. So the solution and the sexy way to do it is probably, if you're on a boat, stern to stern. If you're in a dock, stern to the dock. So I'm just going to do it the traditional way with the joysticks, with the throttles, and then I will also have the bow thruster. These guys are about to leave. Hopefully they will reverse out of here. And then I'm going to transfer over to the joystick just to have a little demonstration, because I've not actually used the Yanmar joystick before. So I'm just lining the boat up with the dock. Now, first things first, always have a crew member out the back of the boat. So I've got Anthony out the back there, microphone's on, so everyone can hear you, Anthony.
Yep, I'm here.
He's just out the back with a roaming fender, is what we call it. So he's going to be just calling the distance as we come in. And I'm actually just going to basically park at the speed you're prepared to crash at, which should be no speed. So stop and park. Don't park and try and stop is what I'm trying to say. So
okay, you're about 2 meters.
Thank you very much. And coming in, we've got fenders on this dock, and we also have
1 meter.
1 meter, and we'll just touch the fender.
And I could step there.
There you go. So that's really, really easy. Now I want to show you one other thing. See how we're drifting a little bit? I can actually press these two buttons. I think the two buttons is how it activates. And using the joystick, I'm able to just hold myself in position. See that, guys? So now I won't go for another touch and go, but I can actually just hold the boat using the joystick, so holding it to windward, nice and slow. And the trick with some of these joysticks is slow and steady movement. So if you've got a cross breeze like this, if you actually just keep the boat or the joystick engaged, it will hold the boat in position for you. So right now I've got it in high mode and slow movements. There you go. And now I'm going to just clear the dock. And because I got shallow water on my bow, I'll actually spin the boat on the spot here so you can see what this joystick's like. So I've got more play on the joystick than what I'm currently using, but I just like to be slow and steady when it comes to these joysticks, because if you just be super fast like playing a video game, you could just get yourself into a little bit of unnecessary trouble. Whereas if you're slow and steady, just use all that torque with the props to your advantage. See this? See how I can actually just do that turn. Now if I want, I can reverse out of here. I'm doing that because I do have a lowish tide today, and I'll set off the shallow water alarm if I don't. Now I'm going to clear my drives into the deep water. See how I can drive this boat very predictably in reverse? Now if I wanted, I could actually slow her down and spin it round super easy, quite elegantly too, I might add. Oh, by the way, this is one of those boats that everyone wants to stop and take photos of, so you feel pretty cool. So look at that. Super simple. The Yanmar throttles have a different feeling to the Volvo. I've got to say they feel a bit quieter and smoother, engaging and disengaging the gears. So these drives, they are not a Volvo drive, and they're noticeable, is all I can say. I don't know much more about them than that, but they are definitely quieter. And this joystick system has got plenty of torque and maneuverability, so it's just what I would expect on any of the other brands, to be fair, and just accelerating straight out of here. Super simple. So hopefully, guys, that gives you a feeling for what is possible with a boat like this. Do you agree with me? Would you use this stern to stern on a super yacht pick up and drop off scenario and coming in to a dock like that? Let me know what you think in the description or the comments below. If you love this boat, join me for a walkthrough. We're about to do it. So click on the link coming up on the screen right now. Thanks, guys.